wind. Roger, tranquility. We copy you on the ground.
New possibilities are opening up for scientific cooperation between countries.
1-0.
Liftoff. Americans return to space as Discovery clears the tower.
Discovery, go and throttle up.
Discovery, roger. Go for deploy.
Base Karen and to everybody in the shuttle program, the crew is go for launch.
Discovery, go and throttle up.
We have followed in their footsteps to get us where we are today.
Hello.
You're watching live coverage of the NASA SpaceX Crew-5 mission as they return to Earth. Dragon Endurance departed the International Space Station at 11:20 p.m. Pacific last night with NASA astronauts Nicole Mann and Josh Cassada, JAXA astronaut Koichi Wakata, and Roscosmos cosmonaut Anna Kikina. Currently, they're on their way to the targeted splashdown site off the coast of Tampa, Florida. My name is Kate Tice, and I'm the Quality Systems Engineering Manager here at SpaceX. And joining me today from NASA Communications is Leah Cheshire.
Thanks, Kate. It's always great to be here, and of course, another exciting day bringing a crew back from the International Space Station. So upon departing the station, Dragon underwent a sequence of departure burns. Since then, the crew had a rest period and has since kicked off preparations for re-entry. Things are sounding pretty good so far. So in this next phase of the mission is when things really ramp up and happen pretty quickly. Dragon has a series of steps to complete before returning Crew-5 back to Earth.
First, Dragon will maneuver to the correct attitude and jettison its trunk, which is the cylindrical, unpressurized part of the spacecraft. The trunk is currently connected to the aft or the bottom section of the Dragon capsule, where the heat shield is located. So, in order to expose that heat shield and get the vehicle ready for atmospheric re-entry, we'll jettison that trunk.
And just a quick look right now inside Crew Dragon with our Commander Nicole Mann on the left and pilot Josh Cassada on the right. After we jettison that trunk, we're looking for that to come up not too long from now, but from there the spacecraft will use its forward thrusters to perform the deorbit burn, which will put Dragon on a trajectory to return to Earth. The burn will last just over 11 minutes once it starts, and it uses the Draco thrusters on Dragon. These are the four located on the forward bulkhead primarily, and it's executed at the apogee or the highest point of Dragon's current orbit around Earth. This will alter Dragon's path to ultimately line it up to re-enter Earth's atmosphere and splash down off the coast of Tampa, Florida.
That's right, and we're actually looking at that trunk separation to happen in about 3 minutes.
Deorbit sequence start.
Joer, that's happening. It's happening now. They don't usually scrub EDL. They wouldn't have separated from the space station if they didn't think the recovery conditions were good.
The mission control room you see on your screen. To the crew, another good interior shot. Down in the bottom left-hand corner, that's Anna Kikina, the Roscosmos cosmonaut that has flown on Crew-5. And then we are also on the other side of the spacecraft. We didn't get a good look at him, but it's Koichi Wakata, the JAXA astronaut that has joined us as well. So, again, good calls. We've heard good confirmation of suit leak checks up until this point. As you can see, the astronauts.
And man, I didn't mind the other one, to be 100% honest with you, but it's not for the reasons that you think. I just think it doesn't look too bad. But the blue and white is.
Like everything
tried and tested
on the International Space Station, everything is scheduled, it's choreographed, including that sleep period, that crew rest period, where basically the crew got to clock off duty and rest, relax, enjoy the view, I would imagine.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'll get to that in a second.
So at this point in time, like we mentioned, we are coming up to the separation of the claw, which is the mechanism that holds that trunk, that unpressurized section of the Dragon capsule onto the pressurized section. So we're about a minute away from that claw separation, and then trunk separation will occur in about a minute and a half. So yeah, that trunk, like we said before, is the unpressurized section. That's where we can store cargo that is able to be exposed to the vacuum of space. And of course, the astronauts are in the pressurized section. But that heat shield is located at the bottom of the pressurized section. So it's currently being covered up by that trunk. So we'll separate the trunk to expose that heat shield.
Yeah,
another important thing to note is when we do claw separation, we're separating those umbilicals that connect the trunk.
Okay, so there's the trunk of Dragon. Dragon's trunk has the solar panels and the radiators on it. It also has those fins in the case of an abort. It's basically a cylindric adapter, right? But because it has the solar panels and the radiator systems, there still has to be some electrical connection to Dragon, right? That's really kind of important. The claw is the umbilical that actually goes around the heat shield and into the capsule on the side. That's what they're talking about, just in case you're wondering. There's an umbilical. Most capsules carry a side umbilical like this. SpaceX just calls it the claw because it actually retracts and it pops off the trunk. But you don't want to have like a wire harness going through the heat shield. Holes in the heat shield don't generally mend well. Ever. Like, ever. So, yeah, the umbilical goes around the heat shield and connects into the side of Dragon. And that's why it looks like a claw, because it looks like it's going up and around. Also, the claw.
We're standing by to listen.
Not a lot of things in here react well to bullets. Right now, Captain Tupolev is removing the safeties on all of his torpedoes. He will not make the same mistake twice.
We're just in a waiting game until we have that claw and trunk separation. But that
nominal trunk jettison.
All right, there's that call. Great news.
Right on time. So as you can hear, that, like we mentioned, is the core calling out to the crew. They report that they copy because they're able to keep track of it on those crew displays that we could see over their shoulders. So again, the claw and trunk just separated. The claw is where those umbilicals for power and telemetry are from the trunk, and its solar arrays connect to the capsule. So now that they've disconnected, again, Dragon is exclusively on battery power. And we just additionally got that confirmation of successful trunk jettison as well, coming right on time at about 5:06 p.m. Pacific. So with that trunk separation, telemetry is looking good. The nitrox system is primed for cabin and suit cooling, and the heat shield is now exposed. The trunk is no longer needed. That is setting us up for our deorbit burn here coming up. It's scheduled to start at 5:11 p.m. Pacific time. Again, we anticipate that will last about 11 minutes.
Yeah, that burn is an important one. That is what commits the crew to that location. Guys? Like we said, we're setting up for a landing off the coast of Tampa, Florida. And it's that deorbit burn that is the final burn that Dragon performs to really re-enter the Earth's atmosphere. Now, up next, we have the final steps that Dragon will perform prior to re-entry. The slew or maneuver to deorbit burn attitude and the deorbit burn itself. Leah, you did indicate that that attitude was correct and that we're going to start that deorbit burn soon. That will be the last time that the forward Dracos, which are the four thrusters located on top of the vehicle near the nose cone. It's the last time that those will ignite. The deorbit burn will place Dragon on a precise trajectory to return to the splashdown zone off the coast of Florida. And like Leah said, it'll last about 11 minutes once it begins.
And again, we're tracking that to come around 5:11 p.m.
If they jettison the trunk before they the deorbit burn, won't the truck stay up there? The trunk will stay up there for a little while, Miller, but the type of burn that they put Dragon in, it's actually, see, right, there's the RCS firing. They look to be, I'd have to go back and look. I'd have to see the type of orbit that they're in. The trunks will eventually come back down. 400 by 400, if I saw that right, the orbit of Dragon right now, per the dashboard, is 400 kilometers, or 412 by 415. It'll decay. The trunk will come back down. It'll just take a while. It'll take a couple years. But it's a tracked piece of debris. It's not that big of a deal. But it will come back down. The ISS itself is in a decaying orbit. So, yeah, even if something went wrong with the ISS and they had to, like, jump ship, right? The ISS will still come back down because you don't want a free-floating piece of debris up there the size of a soccer field. That would be bad. That was a quick recycle. Yeah, Smuck, I mean, they did turn it around real quick. So the first time around, they had a problem with the hold down points, I think. And then the second time around, they didn't get the stage 2 LOX conditioning correct. But they did reconfigure the auto sequencer, just like I said they would. Oh, something's beeping over there.
On Commander Nicole Mann's
I've never seen
leg.
that before.
So those are the tablets that are used for monitoring Dragon's progress and the different statuses and states the vehicle
It'll burn
is in.
up, Rev. It'll burn up completely.
also
It's only
what they'll
carbon
use
fiber.
to
It'll
log
burn right
the
up.
consumables during flight. So we talked before about that period of time where the crew is off duty. They can do whatever they want
yeah,
to.
okay. So, fellas, take a look at this. That's the current altitude. That's apogee. That's perigee. That's inclination. Okay, so they're 415 by 295. The trunk will come down faster. These pulses that you see on the screen are the RCS actually firing. It seems like they're kind of shutting it on and off from time to time. Like that. They're modulating it. They modulate the RCS. They do that for thermal control on the thrusters. So it's like. So yeah, the trunk is in a decaying orbit. It'll burn up. 415 by 256 is low. That's low perigee. 290 something. 290 is definitely decaying. That'll definitely come back down. Hey Adam, what's going on, man?
Over 11 minutes.
Who's on Crew-5? So Nicole Mann is right there. She's the commander of the mission. Josh Cassada is the pilot. To the right of Josh is Anna Kikna, a Russian cosmonaut. And then on Nicole's left, you can't see him, is JAXA astronaut Koichi Wakata. Wakata-sama. What makes the orbit decay? Air. Yeah. Even up there at 400 kilometers, about 270 miles up, there's still atmosphere. It's just not a lot. There is still stuff up there. But see, look, they're burning right there, and the perigee is coming down. See that? Perigee's going down, which means they are apogee. They're burning at apogee if perigee is going down by itself, and that actually says it right there because their altitude is 414, yeah, I can't really see. Those numbers are hard to tell. It looks like 414 and 414, which means they're burning at apogee to lower perigee. Then the thrusters firing, we're lowering it, which is actually pretty cool. Well, they said the stage separator, schmuck.
Discovery.
So,
Go and
Schmuck,
throttle up.
the stage separator, I would assume, is the hold down points, unless they're talking about the stage separator between first and second stage. But, I mean, it could be either one. They did Kerbal in real life. Yep, see, they're lowering perigee right now. That one must be apogee, dude, because apogee can't be higher. Altitude can't be higher than apogee. That makes no sense. So that one's got to be apogee, and that one's got to be like current altitude, and that's got to be perigee. That's your velocity right there. It says 7 point... I think that's 7.61 or 7.62. Full metal orbit. That sounds like interstage, schmuck, yeah, but they called it, they did, Relativity said it in a really weird way. That center engine actually was good. We got it right from Tim Ellis, the CEO. He said the engines were fine, because other people noticed what we noticed on stream. But I did say on stream that I'm like, that could be it. I'm not 100% sure, and it wasn't. I did get right that the parameters on the auto sequencer were set too conservatively. I nailed that one, because, yeah, it's a test flight. Of course they are. They've never tested it before. It's an untested component, right? 51, Panta. Yeah, see, they're pulsing the RCS right there. That's the thruster firings.
The crew, all that the crew has to do is stay strapped.
Hey,
in
Whitney.
their seat.
So that's mission time. Time down was 48 minutes, if I saw that right. Then you have a sequence of numbers. It looks like velocity, apogee, altitude, perigee, and inclination. I think that's what I saw there. I could be wrong. Could they use the Super Dracos to reduce orbit? No, Echo. The Super Dracos actually get disabled permanently for the rest of permanently for the rest of the mission. There's a failsafe in there to make sure that they never fire once Dragon is on orbit. They've safed the flight termination system, and they inert the thing. So there's like a temporary break in the line that goes to the Super Dracos after Dragon gets on board, and they'll actually permanently disconnect it. And once you disconnect it, you can't put it back together until the capsule comes back down. You really don't want those things accidentally firing. That would be very bad. There we go. P is going below 200 kilometers there. So yeah, see, velocity, apogee, altitude, perigee, inclination. What happened to the JAXA launch from earlier this week? It malfunctioned, Cajun. The second stage didn't ignite. And hit the atmosphere going about 12,000 kilometers an hour.
It can vary from less than 6 hours to more than 39. Getting home the quickest comes with some
about
obvious
500,
benefits.
500,
but
550
we always
is
have
really
to
where
make
it
sure
starts
that the
to
crew
be
is
negligible.
properly rested for dynamic operations, preventing us from scheduling 20-plus hour days for them. Trajectory and ballistics experts provide the daily opportunities
That's right,
that would
Chaos.
line up Dragon with the 7
Absolutely.
landing zones.
Are the Super Dracos used for the launch escape system? They are. That's the only reason that they're there, Panta. Yeah, they're the launch escape system. They're part of the integrated launch escape system. So there you go. 4404 until touchdown right there.
Primary site, but it can also change to different.
Aborting for 1 psi is also rather conservative, no? I told you that it's probably set to a very narrow margin, Sebi. Was I wrong? It's almost like I read about this stuff for fun or something, right? They were 1 psi off, and they said, frick that. Nope, we're not doing it. The autosequencer said no, because the parameters for it are set. But now that behavior is understood, maybe they'll go lax on the parameters a little bit. As long as the data can drive that decision, it's fine. Right? It ain't what you know, it's what you can prove. I do remember that, Aqualux. That was funny.
Now, I have heard the weather described in 4 different ways for this Tampa site. I've heard go, very go, home run, and stupendous. So it sounds like they have a pretty nice landing site waiting for them today.
I think one time we also got super go.
Oh, wow. That's
Super
another
green.
level. So once Dragon began flying free.
The pulses that you see on the dashboard, Shadow Man, are the forward RCS thrusters firing. Dragon actually flies backwards through space. They fly heat shield facing prograde, because the thrusters are pointed. The thrusters are up at the front of the hatch. They're up by the hatch. There's 4 of the thrusters. Those thrusters are more efficient for pushing Dragon around because they're perfectly in line. The 4 thrusters are perfectly in line with the center of mass. If you want thrusters in the opposite direction, you'd have to point them out at 45 degrees. It's less efficient. You're not going to get as good of an impulse off of that because it's not lined up directly through the longitudinal axis of the vehicle. So what you're seeing right there is the actual thrusters firing.
Who holds a Master of Science in Mechanical Engineering and is a colonel in the Marine Corps. She was an FA-18 Hornet and Super Hornet test pilot and deployed twice aboard aircraft carriers in support of combat operations in Iraq and Afghanistan. Nicole was selected by NASA in June 2013 and in the years that followed led the astronaut corps in the development of hardware in the Artemis program. She is the Dragon commander for Crew-5, which was her first space flight. She's right there in the foreground of the shot monitoring the orbit burn, and she is also the first Native American woman to stay on the International Space Station.
Sitting next to Nicole is Josh Cassada, who grew up in Bear Lake, Minnesota. The physicist and U.S. Navy test pilot flew 23 combat missions and later became an instructor at the U.S. Naval Test Pilot School, which is a common path military officers to take to join NASA. Cassada is one of more than 100 graduates who became astronauts going back to the Mercury program. On Earth, he served as capsule commander in mission control, but for his first space flight on Crew-5, he has served as pilot on Dragon.
In the role of mission specialist, you can't see him here. He's to the left of Nicole, that's Japanese astronaut Koichi Wakata. Koichi has a doctorate in aerospace engineering and in 1996 became the first Japanese mission specialist aboard the Space Shuttle Endeavour for STS-72. In addition to his current mission, Koichi flew 4 Space Shuttle missions, a Roscosmos Soyuz, and was on a long-duration stay aboard the International Space Station. And just on March 6th, just a few days ago, Koichi reached his 500th day in space.
That's why.
That's pretty incredible.
Koichi is cool.
The second mission specialist is Roscosmos cosmonaut Anna Kikina. She graduated from the This is a tough one. Novosibirsk State Academy of Water Transport in 2006.
Novosibirsk.
In 2012, Anna officially became a candidate for the position of test cosmonaut. Crew-5 was Anna's first flight into space as part of the resumption of integrated crews on U.S. Crew spacecraft and the Soyuz with the Russian State Space Corporation, Roscosmos.
Now we are still in that deorbit burn. Those crew members now about 42 minutes away from that targeted splashdown time of 9:02 p.m. Eastern Time.
What was 1 psi off? The second scrub that Relativity had when they attempted Terran, like right at the end of the launch window, when they attempted to launch Terran 1, was a second stage LOX pressure condition that was 1 psi off. It was 1 pound per square inch out of family, or 0.07 kilopascals. Very, 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 very inconsequential. But like I was saying, the autosequencer is probably being very, very conservative because they've never tested it. They've never done a full test. This is the full test, so this is where you learn.
Small set of physical buttons that the crew can use for emergency
Your old
situations.
math teacher was from Novosibirsk?
And then the display.
Novosibirsk is out in the middle of nowhere, guys. It's out on the other side of the Ural Mountains. You're pretty much in Siberia at that point. You're pretty much in Siberia at that point.
Seats themselves. That's where the mic volume and the push to talk button is also located for the crew to use, and I believe that's also where the crew cabin light button is located. So just like an airplane, everybody has their own personal window. Personal.
It's going to land near Tampa, modern time.
Yes. To read exactly.
Novosibirsk, yes.
There's also USB ports in the Dragon capsule as well.
That's convenient.
Yeah.
No,
not
nothing
on the
new
chairs.
yet, Jazos.
Kind of like above their head, so they can't really reach them while in flight, but certainly useful during the opportunities where they don't have to be in their seats and can charge up those tablets that they use.
Now, continuing to monitor, again, we are in the deorbit burn and should be wrapping up here very shortly. Crew members just monitoring as this is a completely autonomous flight.
Yep, it's a deorbit burn,
10
Jacoby.
seconds remaining in this deorbit burn.
Is it entering from the north or south? She's coming south, southwest to northeast. This is live. Hold my beer. Yep. Mm-hmm.
That deorbit burn is...
Deorbit burn complete. Performance nominal.
Here we go.
Nose cone closure initiated.
About 45 minutes now.
That's what we wanted to hear. Deorbit.
It's not monoprop, Doom. Dragon is using Draco thrusters. Draco thrusters are a bipropellant. They're a bipropellant thruster, similar to the Verniers in Kerbal. They use liquid fuel and oxidizer. In this particular case, the Verniers use methane and oxygen in Kerbal, which... No. This is using hypergolic propellants, monomethylhydrazine, and dinitrogen tetroxide. It's what most spacecraft use for their reaction control systems because they're hypergolic. They're very easy to store. Up in the vacuum, they stay liquids because chemicals, and when they hit each other, they explode. So you don't need as complicated of a thruster. So they're using hypergols. There's the nose cone closure right there on Dragon. You might be able to see it, Cajun, if it's clear enough. Bobby, you want to keep staying in this chat, man. Lay off the drugs, okay? You made an acetylene rocket in your shop? Do you still have your hands, dude? They've splashed down since at night. Yeah, a couple of times, Engie.
That is where the calls are coming from that we hear to the crew.
What's the contingency if the nose cone doesn't close? I believe they can manually drive the nose cone, if I'm remembering correctly, Trojan, but I could be pulling that one out of my tail. I might be getting it confused with another spacecraft.
Seconds remaining. And close.
Oh, no problem, Doom.
Here to the crew and basically communicating
like I said,
status
Bob,
of what's
fun, dude.
happening or what has completed. That comes from that room that you see there on your screen.
How many G's did they feel
We're
on re-entry?
standing by for the confirmation of nose cone closure.
4.5 to 5. It's about the same
we are
as
now
the
about
descent.
18 hours since undock yesterday. So we've mentioned that the crew has had time to rest, relax, maybe eat a little bit, take a nap, but right now are monitoring the continuation of nose cone closure.
So I heard that the dev update for Kerbal 2 said that they're basically tearing the game down and rebuilding it. Is that true? Trev, where the hell do you read this? Where do you read that? Can I link a video? So it's a little bit of a complicated thing. So long story short, what's wrong with Kerbal right now is that they're using a module called PQS Plus. PQS Plus is something that's used to generate terrain and generate celestial bodies. It's something that's used from KSP 1. Right now, they're basically pushing the PQS to its maximum with PQS Plus. In Kerbal 1, it's called PQS. What that basically does is render the geometry around the terrain when you're close to the ground. With all the graphics overhauls that they gave to Kerbal 2 and still utilizing PQS Plus, it's basically bogging the CPU down. It's basically causing a CPU simulation bottleneck, which is literally what I've been telling everybody, Trevor. I've been telling everybody that for the last 2 weeks. So, they're basically going to replace it with something called CBTS. CBTS is basically a system that's designed to replace that gives you much better performance, which is good. That's a good thing. It's a good thing. That's what we want.
Teams monitoring the mission. Over on the left is Mission Control in Hawthorne, and on the right is Mission Control at NASA's Johnson Space Center in Houston, Texas. Home sweet home. They were in joint operations while Dragon was docked to the International Space Station and until the spacecraft exited the approach ellipsoid. So now the teams are continuing to watch the
I'm getting the hate DMs
watch
right
the re-entry
now,
of the spacecraft and prepare to welcome the astronauts home, but in a monitoring mode now, since we are obviously quite a ways away from the International Space Station itself.
Oh yeah.
And as for the crew on the International Space Station, they are in a sleep period right now, but they do have the opportunity to watch these broadcasts and watch their friends arrive back on Earth. So hopefully if they're watching, they still take some time to get a little shut-eye later tonight.
Deorbit burn was on time, Hawks. Should be about 40 minutes out from deorbit.
At this point in time, the nose cone is closed. We're just waiting for that to be called out to the crew. From the SpaceX core.
Pretty much, yes.
Next up will be to initiate that nitrox.
He basically said the same thing, but made it sound more drastic. Yeah, of course, Trevor, because he wanted you to click on his video. Obviously. Dude, you're not going to get any hype, except when it comes to like the rocket launches and stuff. You're not going to get hype from me. I'm just going to tell you what's going on. That's kind of how I roll. PQS, they tried using PQS Plus and they tried upgrading the PQS package, but it has a bottleneck. It has a bottleneck in the limits. You're not going to know that until you actually go and play the game and figure it out. It looks like they've known about PQS Plus for some time because they brought a graphics engineer on. Right? Oh, there's people waving at the camera. They brought a graphics engineer on who wrote that post about how PQS Plus is inadequate for where they want to scale KSP2's performance to. So, I mean, honestly, this kind of stuff happens, dude. You're not going to know until you actually go and do it, right? Like, you're not going to figure that one out until you actually go try to push PQS Plus to its limit. It's one of those things where you can't kind of really predict the future. I mean, yeah, you can't really. Yeah, that's what's going on, dude. So they're rebuilding. They're rebuilding what PQS Plus basically does is it's the medium between the GPU and the CPU talking to each other when Kerbal is running. That's the right way to say it. It's the intermediary between them. And right now, PQS Plus is bogging down the CPU so much the CPU can't send stuff to the GPU fast enough to get you the frames that everybody wants, right? And Trev, I don't know if you heard me say this the other day. I've been saying that the simulation frame rate is terrible in KSP2, but the actual graphics rendering is fine. When you pause the simulation, it removes that PQS bottleneck, and you're getting what the graphics card can do, right? Because when you pause the simulation, you're not bottlenecking the CPU down with changing the geometry around the planet that you're orbiting around. That's also coincidentally the reason why we get better frames when we're up in space when you're farther away from a planet. Dude, once again, that stuff is my jam, dude. I'm a 3D artist by trade. I know graphics. That is my wheelhouse, dude. This is what I've been trying to tell people. Like, dude, when the KSP2 devs said that a 2060 is the maximum for KSP, like that's your min spec, I was like, nah, there's no way that's possible. And then, surely enough, when the game came out, people were playing it on 970s, 980 Ti's, 1070s, no problem. Because it's not the graphics card that's the bottleneck, it's the CPU. It always has been. Hopefully they can fix that in the future.
Well, the external temperature
Ozzy, thanks for the raid, buddy.
degrees Fahrenheit, so a little warm on the outside. That heat shield is pointing forward, leading the capsule to the landing site. And speaking of the heat shield, Dragon's primary heat shield is comprised
Things can only get better, my dude.
3.0, which stands for phenolic impregnated carbon ablator. The first generation Pika was actually first developed by NASA.
That's going to be a hard problem to solve, but you can do it.
Comets within our solar system.
Yeah, so SpaceX partnered with NASA to develop Pika X, which was the second generation product used on all Dragon 1 commercial resupply missions that successfully resupplied the station on on 20 missions. Pika 3.0 was developed specifically for use on Dragon 2 crew and cargo spacecraft with enhanced structural and thermal properties that optimize the heat shield and drove down the cost and mass.
The remainder of Dragon capsule is composed primarily of a SpaceX proprietary ablative material. It's another class of thermal protection, which is lighter weight versus Pika and protects the underlying composite structure during that reentry to ensure that the structural capabilities are maintained.
So while Dragon will experience temperatures well over 3,000 degrees Fahrenheit during peak re-entry conditions, the characteristics of the thermal protection systems, also referred to as TPS, coupled with the environmental cooling and life support system, which we refer to as ECLIS, that's in the pressurized interior, that will ensure that Nicole, Josh, Koichi, and Anna stay cool and comfortable during all phases of re-entry through splashdown.
After Crew Dragon Endurance has re-entered the Earth's atmosphere, a series of parachutes will deploy to slow the crew's descent. The first will be 2 drogue parachutes, followed by the 4 main chutes to guide Dragon to its first contact with Earth since launching in April last year. Dragon will automatically deploy these parachutes when different pressure and positioning sensors on the capsule.
Shadowman, you're talking about launch
at the right speed, and
you're talking about the launch mission control. As if there's a mission going, sure. When a Dragon's up there, yeah, there's always people here. Fun fact: SpaceX has 3 mission control rooms. You don't see the other 2. They never show you that one or the other 2. There's other ones. I'm not saying where they are. They didn't say where to say. They didn't say where to say where they were.
G load we expect the crew to experience during
I don't know what you're talking about,
about 3 to 5 Gs. So again, with nose cone closure,
the blader needs to be refurbished, Hokie. So they were talking about that Pikachu thing that they were talking about is Kate said it's a phenolic impregnated carbon ablator. It's basically if you take resin and inject it into charcoal. Right there is a phenolic impregnated ablator. You can see it on the capsule. If you look behind Leo right there, see this capsule that's behind him? That's the first Dragon that SpaceX got back from space. See that? That's a phenolic impregnated ablator. Due to the nature of how an ablative heat shield works, basically by burning off and releasing gas, right, to shield the column in a cool or shield the capsule in a cool column of air, excuse me. Shield the column in a cool capsule of air. Thanks, brain. Very cool. To shield the capsule in a cool column of air, it actually burns. It burns off. That's why it looks like a charred mess under there. The heat shield does need to be replaced. In fact, most capsules jettison the heat shield. Heck, I mean, some rocket engines have carbon ablator built for the nozzle, like the SRBs on the space shuttle and SLS. Nowadays, they jettison the nozzle before they parachute down because the nozzle's spent. You have to replace it every time. Good questions. It's not like a shuttle tile, T-Man. Not at all. They're a completely different material science. It's like resin injected into charcoal, Hellfish. That's the best way I can say it. Picture something with the consistency of like charcoal, and you fill it with like resin. Yeah, it's like charcoal cast in resin. That's kind of what it is. It's kind of not. It kind of is. Or Vega C's nozzle. Yeah, they had combustion burn through Blinga, and the whole back of that SRB popped off, just like what we said. Sebi, the devs confirmed that Cities 2 is on Unity. That trailer was rendered in Unreal. So, sorry, City Planner Plays. Any news about H3 second stage? We haven't heard anything. Hokey, that's a challenging problem to solve because you have no flight hardware to check to see what happened. You have to look at the telemetry. Extrapolating data from the telemetry and not from the hardware to corroborate it is pain in the butt, dude. We are currently about 24 minutes out. 26 minutes, excuse me. 2 past the hour is when Dragon will splash down. That's the time. Huzzah, you were asking about Terran 1. Well, the first hold was from the stupid boat. The second one, they had a problem. They had an off-nominal reading from the stage separator. Turns out that off-nominal reading from the stage separator right at ignition was for the most part due to conservative auto-sequencer programming. Basically, the parameters on the auto-sequencer, remember how I said, you were there for this, I think. Remember, chat was going pretty quick. Remember I was talking about how there's nominal ranges and stuff, and they purposely set that gap a lot like shallower on a test flight to maximize test results? Boom. That's exactly what happened with the second scrub, like when the engines turned on. That's exactly what happened. They had a parameter too conservatively tuned.
Discovery.
So they switched the parameters and went again, and then when they went again, the autosequencer got them again at T-minus 45 for an off-nominal fuel or off-nominal LOX pressure reading in the second stage. Once again, conservative parameters. Yeah. We actually got word, because relativity is pretty straightforward about this stuff. We got word from Tim Ellis that all the engines were working well, so those sparks coming out of the engine were just it burping a little bit. It's totally fine. At least that's what he said. Hey, Bah! Welcome to Mission Control. You're Go at Throttle Up. Thanks, buddy. And then, huzzah, you got gifted a sub. Yep. They said something about the stage separator getting into a corner case. Basically, at the end of a nominal gap, Aqualux, and they solved it by uploading a software update. They reconfigured the parameters. Yeah, that's what happened, dude. They don't have ablators, Hokey. Yeah, those sparks coming out of the engine, I guess, were just some byproduct from ignition. That would be my guess. Like I said, those sparks coming out of the bottom of the engine could have been anything. It could have been a problem. It may have been nothing. And in this case, it was nothing. But it was something to note. If I was a propulsion engineer and I was looking at that rocket engine, I'd be wondering why it did that, because the other 8 engines didn't do that. But it could just be, just a little burp coming out of the engine. That does happen, but I would be wondering why. Yeah, maybe, Forge. Could be. Man, the engines worked really, really well. Yeah, nice blue flames. They seemed pretty healthy except for that center one, but they were actually all healthy. That's what Tim Ellis said. Yep. They didn't hold the key on start long enough. Red Baron, what is this? Oh, did you make a turbojet, dude? You make a turbojet? Dude, my guy. Dude, hold on. We'll get that in a second. You made a freaking turbojet? Yes! This is dope. Oh, look at that, boys. It runs off nice, high-quality propane. Yes, you made the combustor.
Discovery, go and throttle up.
Store run went fine, Jonathan. You'll promise you add an oiling system? Yep, now give it the beans. You don't want to get compressor stall. Dude! Yes! Yeah, she's getting a little hot, though. Yeah, she's getting a little hot, though. Yes! That's awesome, dude! Yep, good call. Yeah, she's getting a little... Oh my gosh. That's awesome, dude. That's so good, man. That just made my day. Oh my goodness, that's funny. That's cool. The engines flying on Flight 1 are also different from what they will fly on Flight 2. Flight 1, Flight 2. Okay. Yep, okay. Cool. You did put oil in the inlet? Yeah, there you go, guys. That was a radial turbojet, not an axial turbojet. That was a radial turbojet. That's cool, man. How'd you do the combustor, dude? Did you sit there and plot out all the damn holes on the sheet metal? It's a pain in the butt, but I want to do that. Oh, dude, I want to do that. I want to do that on stream one day. That'd be pretty funny. You'll laugh? Hey, whatever. I'm not going to laugh at all. If it's stupid and it works, then it ain't stupid. Random question. What's your career background? How do you know so much about rockets? I'm new to the stream. Yeah, Dustin, I know you're new to the stream. We talked about SLS this afternoon. I remember everyone, man. Oh, yeah. I remember everybody. Don't worry about it. I'm self-taught. Just a big rocketry nerd. I've been just doing... I mean, we played Kerbal Space Program. Like, that's what made the stream big back in the day. But, yeah, I just have a really unhealthy obsession with rockets. I don't know what the hell that's about. That's very strange, but yeah. Yeah, of course, Zell Nerd. Duh. I did it, but it drilled out of an old Model A drive shaft tube. Dude, you legend. That's ultimate hot rodding. I love it. Do you have a day job? This is my day job, Cosmo. This is what I do. I'll do it, Bandit, yeah. We should. I could make the combustor. You need to get a little bit good at welding. I'm not good at welding. Yeah, this is what I do. I sit here and I teach people about rockets all day. You say you remember everyone like it's a bad thing. I don't know what that's about, dude. I don't make an attempt to, but you're my clientele, man. You gotta remember that. It's part of streaming is being hospitality. You know what I mean? That looks good, Forge. It looks real good. That's more hot tubing than hot rodding. Yeah, hot turbining or something. Hey, I told you about my high potential 10-year-old. Now he loves watching your streams. We watched the Japanese rocket fail. Oh, jeez. Well, hey, there you go. And you're good at it. Thanks, guys. Thank you. I appreciate the kind words. You know, I just try to find my way. Find my way through this puzzle that we call the internet. You know what I mean? And if you can make some friends along the way, that's good. Speaking like a true Italian. Whoa, hey, whoa, 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 hey, yo. You're very good. You got a clientele. You got the hospitality. You know what I mean? You got to get the hospitality. Oh, thanks, Admit. What time do you think we'll see the streaming in the sky? Probably like 10 minutes. Again? Red, I love it, man. That's funny, dude. I watched it again. I don't care. You got the gabagool. That's right. Someone asked for it again. Dude, I thought you linked another one. I'm like, I don't care. It's the same video. I don't give a frick. Let's watch it again. Yeah, man. So, Red, what you could do, get a small turbine, like a really tiny one. Find the littlest turbo you can get. And then have a tap off from outside of the combustor, from post, actually, before the combustor, have a tap off and have that turn the turbine, right? But you take that small turbo apart, take the compressor housing off, and put a fluid impeller on, like a fuel pump. Or you could just use an electronic fuel pump. An electronic fuel pump, but pumping oil around will work just fine. You could tap off the combustor, or tap off the compressor inlet. Well, not inlet. You could tap off the compressor post-compression to spin a turbine that would oil it. Or you could just get a Holley fuel pump. Get a Holley fuel pump and a battery and start circulating the oil before you start the engine. That'll work too. I mean, I'm not sure how well the fuel pump's going to do moving like sludgy oil around, but you know, those turbines don't need high viscosity oil. They need something that's really low weight. If I'm remembering correctly, I could be wrong. Could be wrong on that one. No, Tessa, it's out over the Pacific right now. She's going to come down over the Yucatan Peninsula, over Mexico, and land in the Gulf of Mexico by Tampa.
Like automated chute deployment sequence. How copy?
Yeah, Twisted, you could do that too. Yeah, you can mix the propane in and use that for cooling. Yep.
If it's got Sierra Delta Charlie, that's no impact.
Those are good words. Other than that, the weather's still looking good, and we're looking forward to getting you home shortly.
Yeah, Smock, I'd say electric.
Expected blackout time is in approximately 2 minutes or so. We'll see you on the other side at 0156 Zulu.
Okay. So what's going to happen here, guys, is the capsule is going to hit through re-entry. When it gets through re-entry, they're going to have a little bit of a ground-disrupted signal. Turns out plasma, shooting radio waves through plasma doesn't really work too well. So that plasma that accumulates on the outside of the capsule when it's coming in is going to really disrupt the radio. They said an expected reacquisition of signal in about 10 minutes at 56 past the hour.
The astronauts and the crew.
See you on the other side, Ray.
The Corps mentioned.
Oh, snap. You said cross this. Wait. Oh, snap. You said crossing the streams was bad.
That is the absolute global positioning system. They had a couple of pop-ups earlier, but as you heard the Corps tell the crew, those are not of any concern for them. Additionally, I got a good report for everything on Crew Dragon, looking good as we head into this entry period. There was one ground
Rob,
monitoring that the Corps discussed with.
Rob, this thing's gonna come. It really is gonna come in over the Yucatan, dude. If you're in Houston, try looking south low on the horizon. It'll look like a birthday candle streaking across the sky. It'll be white hot though. And it'll you'll see like kind of the trail from it. Actually, maybe not like a burning, like a birthday candle. Like it looks more like a shooting star, and it'll be going dead straight. It'll just be the straightest thing streaking across the sky. You won't miss it. It's really easy to spot. Hey, Warlord. Oh, thanks, man. 46 months. I appreciate that.
Followed by the 4 main chutes.
I'm in Houston. What time?
To its first contact with Earth since
5 minutes.
Dragon will automatically deploy those parachutes when different pressure and positioning sensors
no guarantees, guys.
On the capsule detect that they are at the right speed.
You're hoping to see it from South Miami.
And we were just talking about.
Brandon, you got to look northwest. You got to look northwest. It's coming in. It's going to come in and land by Tampa. So, yeah, you got to look towards Tampa.
That is quite different from the 7.
Webu's in Fort Myers? Yeah, you look northwest as well, but get to the ocean if you can.
The velocity at the time of main parachute deploy is about 119 miles per hour. Those will deploy at about 6,500 feet. And then that gentle water splashdown, we will be traveling at about 16 miles per hour.
I don't think so, Tech.
Again, that highest G load we think is around 3 to 5 Gs. So they should be pretty comfortable. Just monitoring, again, as all of those parachute deploys are autonomous.
The trajectory leg is coming over the Yucatan Peninsula, going northeast, landing near Tampa. Yeah. 35 Gs. Now, Lavitz, yeah, you're going to feel that one later. Yeah, that hurts. I've done that Mission Space ride at Disney World. You pull. I think you pull 3.5 in that one, if I'm remembering right. It's somewhere up there. It hurts, man. If you're not ready for it, like I was not ready for it. I'm like, it's just a Disney. Oh God, okay. You know, you feel that one later.
Of 17,500 miles per hour.
Okay.
The top temperature that Dragon will experience upon that reentry, in terms of the exterior temperature, is around 3,500 degrees Fahrenheit. So, as we mentioned before, we expect this blackout period to last several minutes.
We rode Orange, Remo and I, Gene, in 2019. Dude, I felt that one later.
That reentry period, and we anticipate this
all the time, Hangman. Yeah. Riv.
We anticipate getting that signal back in about 5 minutes from now.
Yeah, hypersonic, you feel
This is
man.
moving pretty quickly because we are anticipating those drogue parachutes to deploy at about...
So they're currently re-entering right now, guys. We should have reacquisition of signal in about 5 minutes.
Around 11 minutes from now. So
damn, Zwing.
This is a very
8.8 in an F-16 backseat.
Things happening in
probably
succession.
Did you breathe? You got to do the control breathing, or else you pass out.
Now, one thing
the orange ride will throw you around, Whitney. It's actually kind of fun.
Capsule, which, like we said before, because of that plasma buildup, we are unable to get those views. But if you were watching earlier in the webcast, you did see those crew displays.
That's
those
correct.
Screen panels.
Yes, you got it. Yep. They're a little ways west of Tampa.
The health of the capsule, the state.
It was awesome, dude. I'd do it.
What was
I'd do it, and I'd probably puke. I'm not gonna lie. I'd still do it. I'd do it again. Yeah, dude. I'll freaking do it again. You know. Let's go, man. It would definitely. You definitely feel that. What G do you need a specialized suit for? I'd say if you're flying around in a fighter jet, you should probably get that G suit on. Yeah. If you're not ready for it, man, it'll just throw you around like nothing. There's no WB-57 on station this time around.
Of the surroundings, and of course when those parachutes deploy, because they are slowing the capsule down, there is a small jolt that occurs during that deployment, and so and also whenever
there's the notice to air emissions. That's the splashdown area that they picked.
Brace for splashdown or brace for impact.
Like I said,
that is
Brandon,
just the crew
you're down,
being aware.
You're down in Miami. You got to look northwest.
Holding onto their seats for those moments where there's a little bit more of a noticeable feel to where they are in their seats.
Right, and I think it's very interesting after watching so many splashdowns. Whenever we have main parachute deploy, they don't open to their full...
Chance, you might be able to see it, dude. I mean, the capsule's coming down from 200 miles up there. It's not like just because it lands 50 miles out from Tampa, that doesn't mean you won't see it. Like, I'm telling you, you'll see the thing. It'll be bright as day, and it'll look like a shooting star going across the sky.
Again, we're in the anticipated loss of signal. There's 2 minutes, or about somewhere between 2 and 3.5 minutes remaining. Sometimes it's hard to tell exactly when we'll be able to get
it's
going
to be difficult to see that thing.
But in about 3 minutes,
like I said,
we will
she's
start
coming in over the
hearing
Yucatan here.
The Corps reach out to the crew to see if they can make that connection.
Nah,
Once
you won't
again,
be able to see it in Virginia.
The loss of signal is expected, totally normal, due to that buildup of plasma around the exterior of the capsule.
And we also have our recovery teams already on site, already on Shannon, the SpaceX recovery ship, and that is waiting off the coast of Tampa. Some of those team members arrived by helicopter. We have one of our NASA public affairs officers also on.
Yeah, baby!
First view.
There she is.
Crew-5.
All right.
Dragon Endurance.
Come on home.
Re-entering the Earth's atmosphere.
Like I said, shooting star.
So this is a view from the recovery ship itself of Crew Dragon re-entering Earth's atmosphere. Of course, we still do not have communication with them because you can see that plasma buildup as they are coming through the atmosphere, that heat shield doing all of the work to ablate that heat as it builds up around the capsule. So again, as we mentioned, you see the movements here. That's the ship camera moving and continuing to track the spacecraft during re-entry. We anticipate reacquisition of signal in just a couple of minutes from now. As Kate mentioned, it can vary when we get that timing. but great to already have a view of our 3 astronauts and 1 cosmonaut inside
that's
as
something
they are headed home.
It's something that's getting in front of the camera.
There will also be a couple of sonic booms during that time frame.
Dragon, SpaceX, comm check.
Okay, here we go.
As I mentioned, the SpaceX core.
SpaceX Dragon, we have you loud and clear.
That's what we want to hear, guys.
We have you the same. Good to have you back. Expect automated chute deployment.
That's awesome, Joe Sean. That's cool.
Dragon copy.
It's incredible to know that the voice we're hearing is coming from
What a shot.
that gorgeous ball of light.
And all of the other little points of light you see around it, they appear to be streaking on
Plasma.
the camera a little bit. Those are stars. Obviously, that beautiful bright light in the middle, that's Crew Dragon Endurance coming home after 157 days in space.
It's kick butt, man.
We are standing by for drogue parachute deployment. That'll be in about
Russian.
2 minutes, but we already do have acquisition of signal. That came, again, a little bit earlier than we expected, so it is a little hard to target sometimes.
GPS has converged. Expect nominal altitude for drogue chute deploy.
Dragon copy.
Man, she's booking. Look at how fast that thing's going across the sky.
Again, that point of light in the center of your screen, that is Dragon Endurance. Another, a different view. This one infrared coming from the recovery ship. As we were mentioning, all of those team members that are ready to recover the astronauts are on the ship. They're in position. It'll take just a little bit for them to move in toward the capsule once it lands, but they all have a very important and distinct role to play, either retrieving the capsule or helping the astronauts egress.
And, you can hear almost hear the film.
At this point in time, Dragon Endurance is about to deploy the drogue parachutes. Those automatically deploy around the 18,000 foot mark.
All right, guys, I'm just going to give this thing a little bit of a fast forward here. It looks like we might be a little bit behind.
Where the drogue parachutes will automatically deploy.
Yeah, the infrared's picking up a lot of light on that heat shield. That thing's really hot.
Dragon automatically safes the propulsion system and then deploys the parachutes to stabilize and help decelerate the spacecraft.
So like we said, we're getting ready for those
Shadowman, I still think that was funny.
Parachutes to deploy on Dragon. That occurs automatically when it's about 18,000 feet above the ocean surface. And the capsule is going roughly 350 miles per hour. In that view before, there was a difference in, here we can see, it's no longer quite streaking like it was just moments ago, or minutes ago, I should say. Like I said before, it looks like those drogue deploys are now...
You got good drogues. Yep. So the drogues are chutes that you can deploy at a high...
Visual on 2 healthy drogues.
They're drogue chutes. They're basically pilot chutes that you can deploy at a very high speed to slow the capsule down so they can open up the chutes going a slower speed. They're basically like big air brakes. That's what they do. Because if you tried to deploy regular parachutes, this is parachute cam. If you try to deploy the regular parachutes going like supersonic, they'll just rip right off.
Those will remain attached to the spacecraft until they help deploy the main parachutes. Coming up in just a few moments. Again, these views coming to us from the recovery ship, standing by to recover our crew members once they splash down. Looks like we...
It looks like we have main parachute deployment there.
Looking for 4 mains there. Main chutes came out when the camera cut.
Main chute descent rate nominal.
Looks good. Real good.
Dragon copies 1,000 meters.
3,300 feet off the
copy, 1,000.
Beautiful view there from that recovery vessel.
Very good.
Of Dragon Endurance with those 4 healthy main parachutes. At this point in time, the capsule's going about 119, or was going about 119 miles per hour when those were deployed, and they also deployed about 6,500 feet. So these main parachutes will help slow the vehicle down even further to about
800 meters.
Copy, 800.
so that we'll hear from the crew about how far they are
2,300
above
feet.
the surface of the water. So there we just heard that call out for 800 meters. The capsule is slowing down further and further. By the time that it actually splashes down, it'll only be going about 16 miles per hour.
It's fascinating to think that just minutes ago, really, they were in outer
600 meters.
space.
Copy, 600.
And are
1,700
now
feet.
just 600 meters above Earth.
Actually,
Again, we are targeting a
1,800 feet.
9:02 p.m. Eastern Time, splashdown 6:02 p.m. Pacific. So that
Yeah,
is the
spotlights.
next major milestone for us today. Now that we have 4 healthy main parachutes,
Time warp set
all
to 4
deployed,
times,
things
please.
continue to look good aboard Dragon.
That's right. We're about a little less than a
No,
minute
you
and
just-
a half away from.
This is not the same crew that we watched launch the other day. This is that crew that we watched launch the other day replaced this crew up on the ISS.
Doing a splashdown off the coast of Florida near Tampa.
Oh, so those lights were the spotlights.
This is what we would consider a Gulf landing.
And those
Or
strokes
is
of
it
light
a
on your
soccer
screen,
landing?
those are spotlights coming from the recovery vessels as they continue to track Dragon Endurance.
200 meters, crew brace for splashdown.
Okay, 800 feet.
Copy, 200 and braced.
Commander Nicole Mann giving out that call as we are standing by for splashdown off the coast of Tampa, Florida.
Okay, should be getting a splash. Here we go. You can see the ocean.
There we can see the water
I just said that,
surface. Dragon Endurance coming closer and closer.
Kate. 10, 5, touchdown. Good splash.
And as you just saw, splashdown of
Perfect.
Crew-5.
Welcome home.
157 days in space.
SpaceX Dragon splashdown. Names have been released.
Copy, Dragon. We concur with splashdown and mains released. Dragon Endurance, on behalf of SpaceX, welcome home.
I just said that.
As you can see on your screen, visual confirmation for splashdown.
Thank you, SpaceX. That was one heck of a ride. We're happy to be home. Looking forward to next time.
Dragon Endurance has returned home,
Well,
and NASA
I gotta let it cool
astronauts
for a
Nicole
little bit,
Mann
Brandon, but
and
the
Josh
recovery crews are
Cassada,
making their way out
JAXA
there now.
astronaut Koichi Wakata, and Roscosmos cosmonaut Anna Kikina are back on Earth after an approximately
Yeah, it was-
19-hour return journey from space. The SpaceX recovery ship and team has been waiting for Dragon's splashdown, and now, as you can see, they're making their way to that splashdown location.
Right, and these teams have been ready and been waiting about 3 nautical miles away, so it'll take them
year
around
is up.
30 minutes to make their way to Nicole, Josh, Koichi, and Anna inside Dragon. We will be listening for Mission Control Hawthorne to give the go for the safe approach now that we have splashdown. There are several different roles. There is an approach boat that will begin inspections.
Thomas.
They want to make sure that there aren't any hypergalls, monomethyl hydrogen, and nitrogen tetroxide still lingering around the spacecraft.
Yeah, you
That
gotta
way
sniff
it is
first.
safe for the teams to move in even closer and retrieve it.
Yeah, the crew will basically
right, guy, very nice.
approach the capsule. And
capsule isn't
they
small,
use
actually. It's pretty
what's
big.
basically a sniffing device, a device that can detect
Kate.
those levels of MMH and NTO. They are toxic to breathe, and so this is a super important step to complete.
SpaceX Dragon looks like we are in stable 1, although a little tough.
Stable 1 indicates the position of the capsule.
Copy that, Dragon. We concur and are happy to report that the recovery personnel have also confirmed Stable 1.
Stable 1 refers to the position of the capsule. Dragon, if there's a little bit of choppy waters, it can kind of tip over a little bit. Tipping over is fine. That's stable 2. Stable 1 is straight up config, which is basically how they landed, which means it's a good landing.
The capsule itself. As we can see there on your screen, even better now with that
SpaceX's website,
spotlight. The crew recovery team is approaching the capsule. They are going to make sure that that monomethylhydrazine and nitrogen tetroxide is not present.
So, Mark, the astronauts up on the ISS actually burn their clothes. They don't wash clothes. It's a waste of water, dude. Straight up. Oh, yeah. They don't take showers either. They wipe themselves down with baby wipes. Don't worry. Don't worry. The HVAC systems in the ISS prevent it from smelling like a locker room. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I know.
Individual climbing
right, Revel.
on top of the capsule to secure the harnesses that are necessary, the rigging, to lift the capsule onto the recovery vessel. As I have said
No,
before,
they're over in Tampa.
Certainly a job that I would not be fit to do.
Not the case with Mir. Mir did end up smelling like a locker room, yes.
As it requires jumping into what we can see as dark water.
They burn their clothes by putting them in a disposable resupply vehicle, and they deorbit and re-enter and burn up in the atmosphere. So the ISS burns its trash, is what I'm trying to tell you.
The crew communicate. The capsule is in stable 1.
Oh,
that
yeah,
means
Rob,
it's in an upright position in the water. Makes it easier to recover, obviously. That is the ideal splashdown position for the capsule itself. So the crew members are still inside. They are still in their suits, in their seats. They will remain that way until the spacecraft itself is lifted onto the recovery vessel.
We'll just say
but the first ships arrive are those fast boats.
They have, so the toilet uses a slight comfortable vacuum to evacuate waste away from people, right? And it puts it into a pressurized system that basically puts it in a keg. They look like, the poo containers look like kegs. Sorry if you like tapping the keg. It looks like, it looks like that. Yeah. And they take those canisters and they throw them into resupply vehicles, and it burns up in the atmosphere. The toilet definitely does suck, yes. Mm-hmm.
And we're anticipating that those first approach boats will arrive at the capsule just a few minutes from now.
Forbidden keg. You don't
Dragon,
want, you don't
SpaceX
want that.
is go for recovery personnel to approach. Expect personnel alongside Dragon in 1 minute.
Dragon copy.
Yeah, we call the poop canisters Boeing bombers.
SpaceX Corps just giving the crew.
Now, boy, what you don't got no meteor. What you got there is a big old chunk of poop. What? Oh yeah.
On Earth, in almost 6 months.
That's right, 157 days in space.
Only
now
on this stream, right?
As Dragon Endurance with the Crew-5 crew. Now
that's right, Lord.
safely back on Earth.
That ain't no meteor. What you got there is a big old chunk of snot. What's that,
Again,
bro?
this was the first flight, so
oh,
first re-entry experience as well for 3 of these crew members. Nicole Mann, Josh Cassada, and Hana Kikana. I'm sure that Koichi Wakata, who now has 505 days in space across 5
this is
space
why they
flights,
won't hire
told
me,
them a lot
Astro.
of what to expect, but it was a new spacecraft for him too. So a lot of new and exciting experiences on today's ride home.
Gotcha, Cajun. It's just a man after a Hemi is.
As we said before, the crew generally experiences between 3 to 5 Gs during the re-entry portion of the of their journey home.
No, synonymous.
So
you need
not
a
too
little
bad.
bit of a vacuum cleaner, dude. Yeah.
Just like a really good roller coaster.
I mean, they don't have the 3 seashells up there, man, so they got to do it that way. Yeah, the 3 seashells. You don't know how to use the 3 seashells? Oh my God.
What we can see,
wow.
I would say those weather reports were pretty accurate. We had clear skies, able to see the spacecraft coming down under those 4 main parachutes and even the drogue chutes as well. And the seas look pretty calm.
It's pretty
also.
awesome, Kev. Yeah.
That's right. So as Leah just said, that splashdown occurred 7 minutes ago.
So what's that quote from? Which quote? The second, the meteor one is from Joe Dirt, okay? The second one is from Demolition Man. They wipe BB. A bidet is a waste of water, dude.
really. So we can see that the approach boat has reached the capsule.
Right.
We should see. Hopefully, it might be tough because of the distance.
You think so, Astro?
We will
You think
hopefully be
NASA
able
would
to see.
You think NASA would be cool with someone making poop jokes on their stream? I'm pretty sure that wouldn't go over well.
And then pull themselves up onto the capsule to basically secure the harnesses that are required to lift the capsule onto the recovery vessel. As of right now, if we were able to see...
Dragon, SpaceX, requesting permission to come on board via the display camera view only.
Yeah, that's right, Panda.
SpaceX Dragon, you are welcome on board.
All right, so just...
We copy.
SpaceX Mission Control, basically just making sure it's okay for us to turn those interior cameras.
Guys, I'll be honest. I throw movie quotes in here because I don't want to seem like some, I know about rocket science and you don't. I don't want to come off like that. I don't try not to take myself like too seriously. Just because.
Go at throttle up.
I try not to be such a tight rear end, you know what I mean? I mean, you kind of have to, like, if I was like running a spaceflight company, I probably wouldn't be as like raunchy as I am on this stream, but yeah. But we're here. We're having some fun. Get to see spaceships come home. That's pretty cool.
They're respirators. So if we were able to see them, they would have personal protection. Personal protective equipment on those breather masks, basically, to make sure that they're breathing clean air to ensure that, and they will do that until that they are sure that there are no
that guy
hypergol
reached
fumes
the
present.
I don't care anymore point. Basically, you beat the game point. That's
of course, during this time.
There we go.
Look,
We
here
got
we
it on
are.
board.
That's our Crew-5 astronauts now back on Earth. Again, on the left, you can just see the top of her helmet visor. That's Commander Nicole Mann, NASA astronaut, and on the right, NASA's Josh Cassada, the pilot for the mission.
SpaceX is back on board with the display camera only.
That's a lie.
Dragon copy.
So that's the inside of that capsule.
This
we
is
were
the display
seeing,
camera. I was like, can they see the screens? Or are they talking about the camera? They're talking about the camera. I'm stupid.
Also on board, we have...
Hey, we got the thumbs up! Yeah!
Nicole Mann and Josh Cassada, I imagine. Probably the same from Koichi Wakata and Anna Kikuna.
Where are the controls? Touch screens, dude.
To their right and left as the mission specialists. And a good look again at those crew displays. Dragon, again, a totally autonomous flight home. They are just able to monitor the next steps.
Nukes. I'd believe that.
And await.
I think I see some bioluminescence around the capsule. Yeah. Sometimes, guys, if there's bioluminescence in the ocean, it appears to glow around stuff that's floating. Yeah, it's actually really cool. Has there ever been a thumbs down? No, I don't think so.
And shortly thereafter, they will begin to lift Dragon onto the nest on the recovery ship. They'll pull it toward a platform.
Dragon, SpaceX, hypergol sweeps and unfired ordnance checks are nominal. Rigging is in progress. Approximately 25 minutes until capsule lift. Stand by for PMC with SpaceX flight surgeon.
All right, here we go. Private medical conversation.
Dragon, please.
Basically, what they're going to do is they're going to shut the comms off for a second, and each one of their doctors, flight surgeons, are going to talk to them. Hey, do you feel okay? You feel like you're going to puke? If you're going to spew into this. Yeah, we don't hear that part.
Routine for astronauts. They have them regularly on the International Space
Station.
Station.
Yeah, that's routine, by the way.
They have them after launch and obviously after splashdown. So just a chance for the crew members to check in with the medical teams.
I mean, I'll be honest with you. You know, it's like a couple of square, like maybe a square mile accuracy with the capsule. I'd prefer hash marks on a runway, personally. Call me old-fashioned. Okay. That personally prefer a runway, some hash marks. Then you could get it down to maybe like a foot. But that's just me. Yeah, call me old-fashioned.
It is getting closer and closer to the Dragon capsule, so we should have some better views as time continues. But as that call out that we just heard about a minute ago, everything checked out from the hypergol standpoint. None were lingering, and so the recovery team, is okay to take off those respirators that they were using for safety purposes and proceed with the nominal rigging.
What do you mean? What happens? Do you want to be drunk in microgravity? That would be horrible. That would be a horrible experience. No, okay, all right. It'd be fun until you get to that point, and then it'd be horrible. If you know what I'm talking about, that point, you know what I'm talking about. It would be absolutely miserable after that. And then the hangover the next day, I don't want that. You don't want that either. Just think about it for a second. That would be absolutely terrible.
Hatch being opened for the first time in 157 days since launch last October.
Would the room spin with no gravity? Yes, because that's your sinuses. The room isn't spinning when you're on Earth, man. What do you think the ISS would spin? Damn. Dude, even thinking about that, I'm like, oh God, no.
So the astronauts will egress, and as with every space flight that we see, whether they are flying, from here in America on Dragon, or if they are in a Soyuz.
It also says they're minus 40 meters underwater, by the way.
After they land.
You're welcome.
Again, this is our totally normal procedure. Just an opportunity for them to get checked out. It is quite an environment change coming back from 157 days in microgravity back to 1G here on Earth.
That's absolutely right. But one thing that is for sure of the recovery, of the splashdown and recovery.
Can you read that? They had a
views that we've had whenever we see the crew coming out of the capsule. I've yet to see somebody come out that didn't have a smile on their face.
Oh, how can you not? They just said it was one great ride. So I'm sure they're all excited, number one, for the experience and the accomplishments that they have. But also, now they're back home. They get to spend time with friends and family. They will be helped onto a stretcher, as we've seen before, just to help them get their land legs back.
They're not sinking.
Absolutely.
They're not sinking, guys. It's not KSP water. It's human space program water. The simulation in human space program is actually really good. Very realistic. Very realistic. No Russians on board. Anna Kikna is on there. Creation? Yeah, she's a Russian cosmonaut. She's on board.
Complete and to lift the capsule.
Look at that. Look at how realistic that looks.
We can see there on the right-hand side of the screen that rigging is in process. The left-hand side of your screen, of course, is a view inside Dragon capsule, where the crew is using those touchscreen displays to monitor progress of everything. I imagine they can also hear what's going on outside as well, in terms of the individual that is crawling around on top of the capsule to secure those harnesses.
There was
a water glitch. It's been 15 minutes now since we had splashdown. 9:02 p.m. Eastern time, again off the coast of Tampa. Everything was looking really nice tonight for that on-time splashdown, right on the minute.
That's right. We even had acquisition of signal about a minute earlier than originally anticipated. But as we said before, that's
the story isn't always great.
Time that we know it comes back. So we were certainly happy to hear Commander Nicole Mann's voice.
The difficulty on this game, Alcaidus, is really, really high.
And of course, these checks and the rigging and lifting really Dragon itself take time, and the teams are very deliberate and take the time that they need to make sure that everything is done properly and safely. But I do think it's very impressive and funny to me that within 2 hours you can go from being in space
respawn.
to
what the hell's that
already
about?
back on land on the recovery ship. It's faster than my flight from California to Houston, so I always think that's very fun.
Speaking of timelines, it's also been pretty incredible to see the continuous improvement of the recovery process itself. So thinking back to the Demo 1, Demo 2 missions where really that process of lifting the capsule out of the water I forget how long it took the first time we officially did it. I think it was about an hour and a half. And
yeah, they're wrangling the capsule into the boat
really
now.
well streamlined at this point in time. You know, this is the fifth operational mission to the International Space Station. Of course, we launched Crew-5, but they're still up there. So this is the fifth one to splash down, and then plus Demo 2 with NASA astronauts
Pretty
Bob
much
and
old,
Doug,
yep.
you know, our favorite space dads. And
the red zone is for loading and unloading of the capsule. There is no parking in the red zone. The white zone is for loading and unloading of cargo only. There is no parking in the white zone.
Capsule mock-up. So it's pretty cool to see how streamlined the operations have been. And there we can actually see our first good view of that SpaceX recovery team
and
member.
Dragon is getting
larger. The Dragon capsule. This is exactly what they have to do in order to
place the
harnesses and the rigging and secure them. That equipment, of course, is...
Okay, nerd time. Deal with it. So if you notice that person's hanging off the side of the capsule, that gives you a good kind of idea of the scale. The Dragon capsule is actually pretty big. It's a pretty big capsule. What the Dragon Wrangler is hanging in is actually the parachute bin. So if you look, there's two lines that go up each side of the capsule, and that's where all the parachute rigging is. So the strings for the parachutes. What this thing does right here, the actual parachute proper, they're actually stored in this container right here that person's in. And when these things up there, see those two dots? The big one up there, there's one on the other side. Those are the mortars. They literally fire off a mortar, and the mortar shoots all the rigging out. And it shoots all the strings out, and the string actually basically unwinds from its channel there, and it pulls the chute out as well. That's how they deploy chutes. Now, why the heck are the chutes in the bottom of the capsule? Well, it's to balance the mass. It's to balance the mass of the capsule. You don't want all the mass up at the top of the capsule, right? You don't want that. That would be bad. And the kind of way that Dragon is designed on past crafts, like the Apollo capsule, for instance, there's like a recessed area up at the top, you know, where they would jettison the upper ring and the parachutes would be in there. Dragon's like kind of oblong design, and the fact that it has its service module shoehorned into the back, giving that oblong design, makes it so you don't have any space up at the front for the parachutes. So they store them in the side. But SpaceX actually, you know, they came up with something here that actually helps. You know, storing the parachutes down low makes you more stable during re-entry, and also, when the capsule takes a dunk in the water, some water will find its way into that parachute, the parachute compartment. That actually acts as ballast and keeps Dragon in a stable upward position. Some capsules, like the Apollo capsule, had to put inflatables on the top because when it plunged down into the water, the capsule sometimes capsized. So Dragon gets around that capsule capsizing problem by having water flow into the open parachute compartment, which is actually pretty cool.
You could see every star in the sky. That's how dark it was. And all of a sudden, you see the brightest shooting star you ever saw in your life pointing down at Earth. And I was amazed how quickly, after those parachutes deployed, the shooting star went away, and it just became another dot in the sky among a sea of stars. But this boat and several other boats in the area turned on their spotlights. They had a drone pointed at it.
Birds.
So you always knew where the Dragon was, even though to me it just looked like another dot. So they were very quick to locate the spacecraft in the sky as it came down. I had my eyes on Dragon just a minute ago. The boat, the SS Shannon, right now is turning to get into a configuration now that we know that we're safe
it's
from
about 50 miles out from
go
Tampa,
closer to the
yes. You're going into a tunnel.
Here it is. See it with your own eyes.
Yes, that's amazing. Just in space moments ago, and now we are getting views from the recovery ship as well. We can see it backing up towards the spacecraft. We also had great views coming from the ships during that descent. So can you tell us what's next for the teams and what's next for you and the other visitors on Shannon?
The SS Shannon. Okay. This is a SpaceX ship, Nick.
Well, we may have lost communication with Chelsea, but what an experience to be able to be there and see it. I'm very fortunate enough to have shared that experience.
I was going to say, I think I recall whenever you were the person on the phone.
Yes, it was absolutely incredible. She's right. It's like a shooting star, and great to hear, that things have been going well on the ship so far. As she mentioned, we were seeing those. It looked like strobe lights almost, but those were the spotlights tracking Crew Dragon as it continued its descent. So yes, they had great coverage of that the entire time.
So we have a great view here of Dragon Endurance there with the Crew-5 crew still in their seats, strapped in, kind of like
Nice
that part
BSD.
of the roller coaster after it ends. You still have to stay in your chair until the attendants give you the okay and lift the bar that keeps you in. So yeah, we can see that recovery team in the water. If you look closely, you can see some of those harnesses hanging
I saw the picture for you.
there
Nice.
in front of the side hatch. We can see the recovery team members on Shannon there.
What does the Dragon Diver do? Hiji, this person, they detach the parachute rigging, and there's a bunch of other things that I'm not 100% sure on. What they detach the parachute rigging, and then they attach the rigging from the ship to pull the Dragon in.
And it will
They basically pick it up with this big A-frame here. Dragon gets up out of the water, and then they put it down on that pineapple ring right there. And then that pineapple ring is actually on a track, and the ship actually pulls it in that way. The whole capsule will move, and it'll pull it in, and it'll bring it up to a service gantry that's amidship on Shannon, on the ship. And that basically, the service gantry makes it so the capsule is basically, there's a gantry that goes to the capsule, so when they open it up, you have a service gantry for it, because it's quite a little bit ways up to that door. I mean, that capsule's a lot bigger than you might think it is. Is there air conditioning in the capsule? Yeah, Roboy, yeah, absolutely. The environmental control and life support systems are actually in the bottom of the crew compartment. They're inside of the pressure vessel, and that's like air conditioning, heating, and oxygen. Because, yeah, you need that third one when you're up in space. Really need that third one. That's kind of important.
pointy end of the Dragon capsule. So I always love seeing that hatch reopened, because it's a very nice bookend in terms of when that hatch was last closed, that was the day that they went to space. And today's the day that they came home.
Absolutely. And that journey beginning back in October and ending just 25 minutes ago, an on-time splashdown at 9:02 p.m.
Absolutely,
Eastern.
Phantom. Yeah, they got
everything is
scrubbers
really
on
moving
board.
along with
Yep.
the timeline. Ideally,
It won't last forever,
the
but they're
recovery
there.
ship arrives about 30 minutes after splashdown, and here we are, almost ready
The
to
ISS has
complete that
scrubbers as
rigging
well. They need to
process. You
replace
can
those from
see
time to time.
that team member still on the capsule itself.
I haven't
they
heard
will,
much, Goalie.
again, as you mentioned, lift that and place it in the nest. And the platform that the astronauts egress on is built up a little bit because
that person is
the
attaching
side
the
hatch
rigging to the
is
crane.
about halfway up the capsule itself. So they will egress to that, be taken out for some routine medical checks, and eventually they will board a helicopter tonight just within a couple of hours of splashing down. That will take them back to Florida before they fly back to Houston, and Anna Kikina will also fly back to Russia.
Yeah. So we're getting to the point in time where, there we can see that lifting
They're lowering
arm
the A-frame.
being moved into the recovery position. Everything's going to move pretty quick at this point in time.
So, they already grow plants on the ISS. They have lettuce, they have peppers up there. A bunch of stuff. Actually, the best way to grow on the ISS is actually hydroponics. That's what they do. They use positive pressure to move water vapor through the air, and they have plants just kind of being held by the stem almost, right? And they just flow water over the roots. Yeah, I said hydroponics, and half a chat just went, huh?
Out of the water.
You
but
did, don't
certainly
lie.
not safe, so we won't be doing that.
And when they lift Dragon, it's also very stable the entire time. It's not swinging around a lot because there are those different attachment points that make it very stable for the crew members coming out of the water and being placed on the recovery ship.
It can be up there for a little while by itself.
Yeah, of course,
not very long.
The
It needs
motion
to
of
anchor
the
to the
waves
ISS.
creating a lot of that movement, and there we can see that recovery team member jumping off and back into the water.
I think it's a combination of both, VB. I think they have aero, but I think they also do hydro as well.
Hear a call out soon, or perhaps just
it could be
aeroponics
too, fellas.
of the
I
capsule
could be
being lifted out of the water. Again, this will happen quite quickly.
Dragon, brace for capsule lift.
But I'll be honest with you guys, I wanted to make a hydroponics joke, so it's probably aeroponics. If I'm remembering right, it actually is. We could go look in a second, but there they are, lifting the capsule up.
Of that heat shield. Once again, that was the primary decelerator for the Dragon capsule.
That's your carbon ablator right there.
Helped slow the vehicle down to about 350 miles per hour from 17,500, of course, during that re-entry burn that we saw.
Certainly did its job.
Yeah.
Bringing them to that gentle splashdown with the help of those parachutes, about 16 miles per hour.
And you can see the channels where
so
the parachute rigging
They have
lines
obviously
would go up
lifted
to the
Dragon. They are placing it in that nest. They'll secure it
do
there
collect
and,
the chutes.
and
That's what the
remove
other boat is
some
for.
of those attachment points before moving it toward the egress platform.
Okay, bring it down.
Now we can see some waters held in what looks like a kind of like a bucketed area there underneath the side hatch. That is the location of where the main parachutes are stored. So all 4 of those main parachutes are tightly packed and placed in that cubby, basically, and we can see water draining from it now. The location of the drogue parachutes is up near where that harness is secured above the side hatch there at the top.
And it's always interesting for me to see those attachment points because, you know, before seeing these missions or before working at NASA, you would always assume that the parachutes would just come from the top of the spacecraft. So not always the case.
They store it low there for mass.
Looks like Dragon is getting comfortably seated in the nest.
Yeah, it's just a nicely toasted marshmallow. It's fine.
Again, things moving along pretty quickly. A few minutes ahead of the ideal timeline here. Now just 30 minutes since splashdown. And we already have the spacecraft on the recovery vessel.
They're adjusting the
Again,
taglines
this one,
to make sure
this
that the
recovery
door is
vessel
lined
being
up with
named
the service
Shannon
gantry.
after Shannon Walker.
Want to kiss my lucky egg, man?
Dragon, welcome aboard the recovery vessel. Recovery personnel are completing final checks. Stand by for translation to the egress platform.
There we go. 4 souls on board, stream chat. Yep. Sangha, you want to kiss my lucky egg, man?
At this point in time, the Crew-5 crew members are feeling a different sensation now. So when they splash down, of course, they're greeted with gravity once again.
Oh, thanks, Coach.
But there was an additional sensation of being in the water, and now that they're on the recovery vessel, it is clearly more secure than that. Or not more secure, a lot less motion than being in the water. Of course, they're still on a boat, so there's a little bit.
Finally, a reference
after,
I get.
After these connection lines are removed, we'll be looking forward to hatch opening. Of course, we have to move the Dragon to that egress platform first, but Dragon will stay in this hatch, or in this nest, I should say, until it returns to port. So while the astronauts will be flown back to Earth, or they're on Earth, but once they're flown back to solid ground.
Leah, you okay, or?
A little bit of a journey for the spacecraft itself to make it back to port, and it's going to remain in that nest the entire time.
Yeah.
So following along with the recovery procedures, we're looking at roughly 5 to 6 minutes until we get that side hatch open. Once again, assuming that all the checkouts, of course, the capsule, the Dragon capsule itself is equalizing the pressure inside to match the pressure outside as well. And ultimately, the crew is just continuing to monitor the progress. They're using those screens in front of them, but they remain comfortable in their seats. We continue to flow that nitrox air through the suits in order to keep them comfortable. of course, I always like to say that that air is
It'll
the same
probably go
stuff
tamper
that scuba
first,
divers use to,
No rush.
you know, in their breathing equipment. So that cooled air is certainly an additional piece of comfort for the crew during this process, because
you know, that
as we
happened on
said
the
before,
ISS one
right now
time.
there's nothing
True
for them to
story.
do but patiently wait for for the translation of the Dragon capsule into that more forward position, as Leah was talking about, where we will be able to open the side hatch.
And again, obviously, we've got Dragon Endurance on the left and that view on the right coming from inside the spacecraft itself. Our 4 Crew-5 members, as you mentioned, patiently waiting. No action on their part, just continuing to monitor, and as they are now aboard
Right,
recovery
canceling.
vessel Shannon. Like I said, this is named after Shannon Walker, NASA astronaut who flew on the Crew-1 mission. There's also another SpaceX recovery ship named Megan, after Megan MacArthur, who flew on Crew-2.
That could be the name of my autobiography. It could be rocket science knowledge and poop jokes.
So once again, we're standing by for the
right.
capsule for that forward translation to the
We don't
egress
race on
platform,
Fridays, Jackal. Friday night racing
which
is
is
kind of
where we will
suspended right
be
now
able to
because of
open
KSP2.
Dragon's side hatch and ultimately allow the crew to egress.
And
Thomas,
as we've
it's
mentioned
Ghost
tonight,
Searcher,
the
okay?
crew will board a helicopter that lands on that helipad where Chelsea was talking about watching splashdown from. They will be transported back to shore tonight.
We are going to do
Additionally,
Friday night, or
along
Saturday
with
night racing
them,
tonight.
there will be a couple of more helicopters
Poop
that
jokes
take
and
off
rocket
and
science.
take some of the additional visiting personnel, including Chelsea, who gave us the report
Searcher
from the
gang.
boat. And not only people, but they're also taking some time-critical science, some samples from the astronauts themselves.
Helmets up.
They'll return those extremely quickly to the scientists on Earth.
translation.
And there we can see
Is up. There we
that
go.
Dragon Endurance is now making its way.
Dadum. Dadum. Dum 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 dum. Salsa Dragon. We're gonna need a bigger boat. Dragon's on the spacecraft. Dragon eats the salsa. Dragon in the salsa. You think it's a bit oversimplified?
There you can see that platform I've been
What, the poop
discussing.
jokes or the
Just
rocket
behind
science?
it is a little hallway. There's some medical checkout rooms for the crew members to get those, as I mentioned, very nominal.
Is that a washing machine?
And very planned medical checkouts now that they're back on Earth.
We were able to see the recovery
Geek, I
team
made that one just for
hosing
you.
the capsule down. We're using fresh water to do that, of course, to help minimize any corrosion to the capsule, as we do reuse these. So basically just trying to give it a freshwater bath as it is on the deck. We're also able to see that the recovery team on the platform has their personal respirators or breathers. They are going to do an additional hypergol sweep. That is to basically triple check that there are no fumes for the MMH or NTO, that monomethylhydrazine and nitrogen
gotta do a sniff check.
tetroxide.
That's why they all have
Those are
gas
the
masks on, dude.
propellants that are on board the Dragon capsule for its on-orbit propulsion system. And
Kate's got
they are not fumes that are you're able to breathe. They're quite toxic to people. So we'll
It
see
will kill
them
you.
perform an additional check.
Kindar tone indicates someone's keying the microphone on. The beep.
So once we do open the
Tommy,
hatch,
not
the
yet.
first smiling face that Nicole, Josh, Koichi, and Anna will see will be a SpaceX medical doctor, just to check on them, see if they are ready for egress.
What do you do? I'm a doctor.
We hope to get
What
some
hospital do you
views
work
shortly
at?
thereafter of our crew
SpaceX.
members. And here is
What?
a great view of the hatch itself. Again, next major milestone will be for hatch open.
Absolutely. So as we mentioned before, while Dragon's top hatch is what is used to connect to the space station, or the forward hatch, the astronauts are going to egress from that hatch right there. That's the side hatch. And before opening the hatch, the spacecraft...
So what that guy's doing is he's wiping down all the salt water off of this thing. That's why they hosed it down too. The seal that the hatch needs to the metal that needs to seal for the hatch, the flange for the door. So basically where the metal from the door and the metal from the capsule kind of butt up against each other, that surface needs to be like super pristine. They don't even want a drop of water on that thing. So that's why he's wiping everything down there. And that's why they hose the capsule down on the way during translation.
On the recovery ship itself, they are on the spacecraft too. But letting these SpaceX teams take care of preparing Dragon for hatch open. And once that happens, it's important to note again, Nicole, Josh, Koichi, and Anna will be getting that assistance from the recovery teams when they're exiting the capsule. It is the same process for any returning long-duration crew members, because returning to a gravity environment can challenge our vestibular system. That's responsible for maintaining our balance and motion. And of course, safety is always the #1 priority with this operation. So you'll see Nicole, Josh, Koichi, and Anna helped out of the capsule, assisted a few feet to the medical quarters aboard the boat. And if you've ever watched crews return on a Soyuz or even previously with Dragon, this is the same process as when they are carried from the capsule to waiting chairs. And then in the case of a Soyuz, there's a waiting medical tent. And then, as I mentioned earlier, this is also the time period where that time-critical cargo can be recovered from the spacecraft, with the remainder waiting until the ship is back in port. But some of those cold stowage items, they're able to get that back to the investigators and the researchers as soon as...
Why does the middle screen still show parachutes deployed? It basically... It probably showing the last point where the tracking deconverged. It's just end of mission. I mean, I'll be honest with you. Yeah, it's kind of weird. I don't think we've seen it keep the parachutes deployed like that before. But yeah, it's just showing the end of mission.
Man.
Dragon, stand by for side hatch opening in approximately the next 60 seconds.
All right, here we go. We're going to need a wrench to...
We're looking at Rick right now.
Okay,
so
there
we
go.
can see that those... and there it is. Side hatch open on Dragon Endurance.
So what they're going to do is that flange that I was talking about, that flange that I was talking about there, that the metal that they were worried about contaminating, they're going to put covers on it because it's also super freaking sharp.
First check, making sure everyone is feeling all right back here on planet Earth before we begin helping those crew members out of the capsule.
On the left-hand side of the screen, we can see the recovery team members placing a protective frame around the interior of the hatch. As I mentioned before, of course, we reuse our Dragon capsules, and so really to preserve the integrity of that hatch, which of course is important, we put some protective framing around there to help make sure that there is no damage incurred to the side hatch as the crew members are exiting or egressing from the capsule.
Still able to get some notes from Chelsea. She said there's a big round of applause on the recovery vessel now that the hatch is open. A really great moment. Really signifies the end of a successful mission.
That's good, man. 157 days in space.
As we mentioned before, that the individual that you see there on the right-hand side of your screen between pilot Josh Cassada and Commander Nicole Mann, that is the SpaceX medical doctor, always the first person to pop in. Basically just looking for 4 thumbs up from the crew members to indicate that they're feeling all right and ready to egress the capsule.
Okay, so Josh should be the first one out here, per the doctor.
We'll also get a chance for one of the photographers. We do have photographers on the recovery ship as well that are able to document the splashdown itself. So
this capsule, has flown twice.
As I mentioned,
2 times
going to get that shot. Hopefully 4 smiling faces.
The photographer.
I'm sure they're...
You a photographer? I'm a spaceflight correspondent. Oh, yeah? Seen much space flight? Well, partner, maybe a little on TV.
Of re-entry, you can see there with some slight scorch marks on the thermal protective system there. It was a very pristine white on launch day, and within the last hour, of course, it re-entered the atmosphere and splashed down, and we can see that evidence there on the exterior of the capsule.
Yeah, the heat shield obviously did a great job bringing back our crew members safely. And this is the second flight for this capsule, so there is the opportunity for it to be taken back and refurbished or polished up, prepared for another future flight.
Well, Pilgrim,
so for those of you just recently joined, the crew is the Crew-5 astronauts and cosmonaut are now on board the recovery vessel, and we are awaiting their egress from Dragon Endurance.
Talk the talk.
They will come out one at a time, assisted by the recovery team members. As you can imagine, after spending 157 days in space, gravity might not feel...
The first guy in there, Yedis, was the doctor. That's that dude right there. See that guy? He's the doctor. He's asking, making sure that everybody feels okay. If you're going to spew into this. And he basically says, based off of that report, who needs to come out of the capsule first. That doesn't necessarily mean that somebody's no good. Somebody who's no good, they'd pull them out like right away. But, yep, they're removing the footrests from the capsule here so they can get the crew out.
Have a little bit more space in the capsule, so they'll remove those 4 footrests to allow teams to more easily enter Dragon and help these crew members back on board the ship. Again, this view here in Mission Control in Hawthorne, California, teams at SpaceX monitoring
they sniff for the face
and arrival of
and the
Crew-5.
xenomorphs too. We don't have to worry about that. I think I was just trying to suggest something, Dishrag, about the duality of manned spaceflight, sir. What is that, some kind of sick joke? You have a Starliner pin on your hat and a SpaceX pin on your hat. What's that about?
Coming up on about 45
what
minutes
is that, some kind
since
of sick joke?
splashdown tonight. The side hatch is open. Crew members are being prepared for egress. Everything has moved really smoothly tonight so far.
What detection methods do they have for change? Magnets. How do they work? I don't know. Magnets.
Once again, that is a view.
How do they work?
Looking toward the side hatch. That view has Commander Nicole Mann on the left-hand side and pilot Josh Cassada on the right-hand side.
Oh boy!
So they're most likely
they're not unconscious.
The
they're okay.
Crew members on, what to expect the next steps for their next steps.
Actually, Pontius, the Crew-1 mission, the commander Mike Hopkins, he definitely did that, dude. They were like trying to get him out on a stretcher, and he walked out of the capsule and went right in front of the camera and went ah, and then walked away. No joke, dude. No joke. Straight flexed, and he's like, I'm good. I don't need no damn stretcher, and walked to the freaking kitchen, man. Straight. Well, I don't know if he walked to the kitchen. He probably walked to the medical tent. But still, he did do that. He didn't get fired, Kuda. No, he didn't get fired. But the doctors are like, oh. Okay. That was Crew-1, guys. That was the first operational Dragon mission. Yeah. Hop came out and he went, oh! And he flexed and freaking walked away. Here, I'll see if I can find it. Hold on.
NASA team members, as we mentioned.
That's a great shot because you can really see that scorching on the thermal protection system, as I was talking about earlier. That evidence.
Hey, Woodsy, 7 months, and just thanks for the 6-monther. Thank you.
The capsule got up to 3,500 degrees Fahrenheit, and I think it's quite beautiful to see returned capsules, of course, because it's just that evidence of spaceflight
and success.
Absolutely.
Just a slight toasting. And just a reminder, of course, once these astronauts are helped out of the capsule, we'll see them being placed likely on stretchers, again, helping them regain their Earth legs. They'll then move into those routine medical checks. Those happen on the boat. And shortly after those, they will board a ready and waiting helicopter to head back to land.
I'm scrubbing through the footage, guys. Give me 1 second.
Once they come back to Florida, there will be a NASA spacecraft waiting for them to bring them back to Houston. They'll be able to reunite with their friends and family.
I almost got it. I'm scrubbing through the same procedures that they're doing, but for Crew 1 from a year ago. Well, for over a year ago. It was a little while ago.
And it looks like our egress is beginning with NASA astronaut Josh Cassada.
Here we go.
Pilot of...
I got it. I want to see Josh get out here, though. He did that for a SpaceX flight. Yeah, guys. I'll show you in a second.
157 days.
Malachi, yeah, I said conservative parameters on the auto sequencer, dude. Always.
I believe there is a...
stupid man, it's
like
air is circulated. It smells like a doctor's office in there.
That is secured to the exterior of the capsule.
Okay, so see, they got like a bar, and they'll take him out on a stretcher, right? They're taking Josh out on the stretcher right now, which is fine. That's normal. You don't want to walk around. You don't want to... You don't want to put a lot of stress on your vascular system after you've been on orbit for a long period of time. You just got to kind of take it easy. But here, fellas, so watch this. This is from Crew 1. Watch Hop get out. I'll show you. See, he's like, nah, I'm good. I can stand. I'm good. They're like, no, go over there. Yeah.
All now completely deactivated. Now that the Dragon
That's awesome. He's just walked away. He's like, nah, I'm good.
And, secure on the recovery vessel.
That was the best, man. We watched that live too.
So even if somebody were to bump one with their elbow or their head, nothing would happen.
The doctors are like, no. He just gets up and he's like, and just freaking walked away. That's some Chad Tier stuff, man. You just came back from space, Mike. What do you do? I'm going to Disney World.
Astronaut, our first crew member out of the spacecraft. Looks like those SpaceX team members are back in.
Mike was up there for 6 months.
And
Salty,
they
yeah.
are helping.
Huh?
I doubt we'll hear any more of those calls from the crew to the ground now that the hatch is open. But every time I hear it, I pause a little bit.
Yep. If I had to guess, that was probably that recovery team member accidentally bumping the armrest comm panel.
Disney World.
Which is
imagine leaving your passport up there.
They use to, basically push
actually, convolution. The astronauts that went, every astronaut that went to the moon had to go through U.S. Customs when they came back. Yeah, they had to go through customs. Seriously. Yeah, where are you coming from? The moon? Oh yeah. How long were you there? 2 weeks? No, 3 weeks. Really? You don't look like you came from the moon.
Also 157 days for Nicole,
I'm
being
serious,
that it was
they did.
her first
Because,
space
hey,
flight.
it's out of U.S. territory. I mean, technically.
I would imagine for Koichi, who you mentioned earlier, has, you'll have to refresh my memory, over 500 days now
while
in
you
space?
came from
Yes,
What?
exactly 505.
There we
today.
go.
So
I
Yeah,
imagine
they're not
this
showing the
part
outside.
is
Work or personal?
never easy, but he's
Work?
very familiar, knows what to expect in terms of the change in
think so,
mobility now
Aquilus,
that
yeah.
he's back on Earth.
I have 30
Commander
kilograms of unregulated regolith to
Crew-5
declare.
Nicole Mann
Where'd you get that from?
also became
From your
the
friend?
first
Who's your friend?
Native American woman to live on the International Space Station. So a real moment of
Thomas
pride
has the
there, I'm
document.
sure.
Guys, to be honest with you, before people said like, "Oh, bureaucracy," it was a joke. It was supposed
You
to be
can
funny.
see her being helped
It is pretty funny.
to those medical quarters. Again, all nominal, all pre-planned checks. Just an opportunity to make sure the crew is feeling good before they take
Did
that
anyone pack your
helicopter
luggage
ride
for
back
you?
to shore.
Yeah.
Exactly, and as you mentioned earlier, all
we
the crew
found
members.
we found this guy, this little thing up on the moon. He kind of looks like a human, and he says his name's Jeb. I don't know, the little green men or whatever. Yeah, he's here too. After,
as we said before, 157 days in space.
I don't know where he came from.
Can be pretty tough on the body, and of course, in order to keep them safe, we want to assist them. So all 4 of the crew members are placed on a wheelie bed and rolled back to those medical quarters, as you said, for their evaluations with the flight doctors.
So now our NASA astronauts are out of the spacecraft. We are awaiting egress of Roscosmos cosmonaut Anna Kikina, her first space flight, and as we mentioned, seasoned veteran Koichi Wakata of the Japanese Aerospace Exploration Agency.
There we go.
This looks like it may be Anna.
Yeah, as I mentioned before, that slide, we have a great view of that slide now. Really helps the crew in this egress procedure.
Oh, this is probably Koichi, judging by, I can see that Japanese flag on that team member right there on the right.
Hey, Cyber, not everybody, sometimes everyone gets boarded, all right? You got to jettison the spice sometimes, all right?
Yeah, I think you're right, because it looked like...
Koichi?
Yeah,
no.
It looks like Koichi.
Koichi's launched into space 5 times prior. This is his 6th space flight. He flew 4 shuttle missions and a Soyuz mission. Yeah, and now a Dragon mission. Koichi's a BAMF, dude. He helped build the ISS, no joke. Boom.
That means our...
Yeah, Koichi is like one of Japan's most distinguished astronauts. Yeah, oh yeah, absolutely. Him and Aki Hoshide and Soichi Noguchi are like hardcore, dude. They all flew on the shuttle multiple times, and they've all flown on Soyuz a lot as well. Yeah, all 3 of them actually. Actually, yeah. Koichi Wakata, Aki Hoshide, and Soichi Noguchi have all flown on shuttle, Soyuz, and Dragon. It's actually pretty rad.
And we are almost...
That's really cool, actually.
All 4 crew members out of the spacecraft.
That's right.
That's really freaking cool.
Splashdown occurred off the coast of Tampa, Florida at 9:02 p.m.
Anna's
Eastern
coming out of the
time.
capsule now.
So yeah, we're just shy of an
a
hour.
hat trick with 3 astronauts, Bradley. Not a lot of people can say that. They've flown on 3 different spaceships.
Again, we had great weather reports as we prepared to splash down at Tampa, and we even got pretty good views of how calm the ocean appeared to be.
Wakata-sama basically, yeah, he helped install the Kibo module, the Japanese module that's up there. He was up there for those missions, and he was on a shuttle Mir mission, if I'm remembering right. Koichi Wakata's been an astronaut for a long time, dude.
There was a curved line. That was the line indicating where the nose cone was separated from the primary structure. So it looks like Anna Kikina, our cosmonaut on board Crew-5, is about to make her way down the fun slide and egress Dragon Endurance.
The fun slide.
Which once again
you all right?
made its 2nd splashdown.
Yeah, she's good.
Roscosmos cosmonaut Anna Kikina, our final crew member to egress tonight. Again, her first space flight.
Yeah, Charles, it's on one of SpaceX's recovery ships. Yep.
Have those same medical checks before flying back to Russia.
Yeah, we got a smile.
Look at that smile as well.
Hell yeah. Yeah, they pick calm seas for the recovery conditions, Charles, on purpose. It's easier to fish the capsule out that way. Yeah, they'll fish for sure. All right, that's 4 out.
And that is all 4 of our crew members. Now that Nicole, Josh, Koichi, and Anna are safely back home on Earth and getting checked out by the medical teams, we're going to wrap up our live coverage of their return. Again, this all kicked off on October 5th, 2022. October 5 for Crew-5 from historic launch pad 39A at the Kennedy Space Center in Florida. After successful liftoff and separation from Falcon 9, Nicole, Josh, Koichi, and Anna made a 28-hour flight on board Dragon 2, the International Space Station. Since arriving at the space station, they spent nearly 6 months as members of Expedition 67 and 68. executing science experiments, spacewalks, and repairs while aboard the orbiting laboratory.
Woodsy, they'll go where the waters are calm for the most part. They often pick out like 5 or 6 recovery zones, anywhere from basically like near Baton Rouge, all the way down the Gulf Coast to Tampa, and then there's one on the other side. So there's one next to the Cape. They have a recovery area that they could pick at like outside of Cape Canaveral, like right where they launched from, and then there's one all the way up the coast to basically South Carolina. You could land anywhere in that corridor. They pick one, and the capsule can steer itself in, which is actually pretty cool. It's really neat.
The deorbit burn at 5:11 p.m. Pacific time to send the Dragon on its path home. The spacecraft re-entered Earth's atmosphere and slowed its descent with successful deployments of 2 drogue parachutes and 4 healthy mains, with the final splashdown occurring off the coast of Florida at 6:02 p.m. Pacific time. Following that successful splashdown, we saw SpaceX recovery experts move in and prepare Dragon Endurance for its lift onto the recovery vessel. And just a little less than an hour ago, 58 minutes to be exact.
Wow.
Following splashdown, we saw Nicole, Josh, Koichi, and Anna make their way out of the Dragon capsule and into the recovery ship's medical facilities, safe and sound.
So next up, they will catch that helicopter flight back to shore. They will transfer 2 aircraft that will take them home. Nicole,
actually, also, there's a fairing sitting back there. There's a Falcon 9 fairing that's just chilling back there. I don't know if you guys noticed it. It's under some tarp, but that's definitely a fairing.
This mission. Of course, as always, it's been an honor and a privilege to share their journey with all of you as we continue this new era in human spaceflight.
Yeah, Sevy.
The return today marks the end of a direct handover that we just executed after successfully launching the Crew-6 mission to the space station just a little over a week. Actually,
no, this capsule has flown twice, Guru. The one that's up there, Dragon Endeavor, actually is on its 5th flight, guys? Yeah.
NASA continued to work hard to keep America leading the world in human spaceflight. Continue to follow SpaceX and NASA online and on social media for updates for the very latest on crew and cargo flights to and from the International Space Station.
And we will continue to share the progress of Nicole, Josh, Koichi, and Anna on social media as they travel back home. We also have a post-splashdown media telecon coming up at approximately 7:30 p.m. Pacific time, 10:30 p.m. Eastern time, where leadership from NASA, JAXA, and SpaceX will share updates as we conclude this successful mission. So we say thanks one more time for tuning in and cheering on Nicole, Josh, Koichi, and Anna as they made their return back to Earth. So from all of us at NASA and SpaceX, welcome home, Crew-5, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you very much, ladies. That was a great cast. Perfect. Very good. They play this awesome music and then they always cut. Oh, keep it going, keep it going, keep it going. Damn it.
For generations, we...
NASA TV, everyone. Okay, for generations, we cut the stream early. Boom! When is the first patch for KSP? Surge, it's tentatively on Thursday, the 16th. I guess that makes up for the failed rocket launch today. Yeah, chaos. Hey, it is what it is, dude. I saw the part where the Dragon was in contact with the ISS adapter was dirty. What's that about? Around the timestamp. I saw the part where the Dragon was in contact with...
Time 2:20 a.m. Eastern Time with Dragon and Station.
Where the part the Dragon was in contact with the ISS. That's not where it's in contact with the ISS. That's just stuff that gets scorched by light. The sun does this. It's discoloring slightly. Yeah. It's the other parts of the capsule have that on it. It's just that it's pronounced here because the sun is shining on the nose cone here. It would help if I open the camera. You see this right here? It's you can see it because it's shining on the nose cone. When the capsule gets further away, it's all over it, dude. That's nothing. Because this is... Okay, let's back it up just a little bit. You see this part that's metal looking? The metal part is the part that touches. And those right there are the power plugs. There's 2 of them in redundancy. In redundancy, comma, see? Right there and right there. This area around that is area that's been exposed to solar radiation. That's all. It just discolors this. That's no big deal. Relativity have a 3rd date for their attempt yet? No, not yet. Not yet. What's the expected lifespan of those capsules? The capsules can stay up there for a pretty good time, pretty good while, consort. They're really designed to stay up there for like 7 to 8 months on orbit. And that's why they do 6-month missions, so you don't ever get near the operational flight time, like total full operational flight time of the capsule. If I'm remembering right, it's the solar cells on the solar panels. The solar cells will get fried by the sun, believe it or not. Ironically, right? I don't know if it's 8 months. It's something like well beyond what they keep the capsules up there for. That's just kind of how NASA rolls. If the solar cells last, if we want to do 6-month mission, make the solar cells last 10 months, just in case the poop hits the fan. You know what I mean? You wouldn't want that on the space station. That would be terrible. So, what is that material made of? It's just some thermal protection, dude. It's I'm not actually sure what the outside of Dragon is made of. It might just be paint, for all we know, but I'm not 100% sure. All right, Super, good night. Sun bleaching, but a million times stronger. Yep, that's right. In terms of operational missions, I think each Dragon is good for 10 missions. But how SpaceX kind of does this is that it's the same type of thinking. If you want to start the capsule for 10 missions, you in reality would rate it for like 20 missions, right? Because you don't want to get anywhere near the operational limits of the capsule. Why would you do that? That's just rolling the dice, and that's a stupid thing to do when people are involved, right? It's 210 days. There you go, FX. Thank you. Yeah, that's what it was. Let's say the capsule is around Mars. Is radiation still a concern? Absolutely. Sure. It's probably worse on Mars because Mars has no magnetic field. It'd be worse out there. Oh, yeah, we got daylight savings tonight. That's right. It's like the sunburn. Yeah, Serge. Yeah, wear some sunblock if you're going to be outside in space. Yeah, you'll get a pretty hefty suntan and probably a good X-ray or 2. A couple of chest X-rays. You don't want that. How do they make the booster land on its own without human help on a computer? Andrew, so Falcon 9 or Dragon? What do you want to know? Because that's a good question. Dragon. Okay, so Dragon can actually steer itself down. It steers itself during re-entry. So how does it do that? How does that capsule steer itself when it's coming back down? Well, it uses the RCS, the reaction control systems. They're tiny little thrusters that are on Dragon. Here, I'll show you. You can actually see them in the next shot. Those are 4 of them right there. See those holes right there? Those are for thrusters. But those aren't the thrusters that it uses during re-entry. Those thrusters get covered up by the nose cone. See those things down there? Those guys are the roll control thrusters. So the capsule, actually, it's the computer basically working with the onboard systems. It uses the RCS jets to actually steer the capsule in. So how does it steer it? By rolling the capsule. The capsule actually has an offset center of mass, okay? And the offset center of mass basically makes it so when the capsule goes through re-entry, the re-entry is coming at it this way, it tilts the center of mass, tilts the entire capsule. But if you rolled that capsule upside down, it'll tilt it in the opposite direction. So that's how the capsule can steer. The computer can control the trajectory by rotating the capsule left to right. That's how they've been doing it for 50 years, barring the space shuttle. But then again, the space shuttle still did the S-turns, which basically is the same thing, but with the space shuttle. So the computer is basically using GPS. It uses GPS, and then it uses what's called inertial navigation. There is an accelerometer, or it's called an inertial measuring unit on a spacecraft. So it kind of works like the same thing on your phone, right? When you When you turn the screen on your phone, it turns the screen with it. It registers a 90-degree turn, right? And it'll turn the screen, right? It uses something like that to basically measure the deceleration of the capsule. And from the deceleration and using GPS, it can basically steer itself right in. It's really cool. Inertial guidance systems are very, very interesting. That and GPS. It's like the GPS in your car. Same thing. Send Cylons to Mars. They never need food, water, or air. Not a bad idea. I mean, we could do that with replicants too, Timbo, if we want. I mean, a little different, but... They're not using an accelerometer, Bluest. It's most likely an inertial measuring unit, so gyroscopes or something of that nature. I don't know what Dragon's guidance system is. The guidance systems is not something that people talk about very much. That's right, Panta. Yep. It knows where it is by knowing where it was. Yep, pretty much. With that being said, Andrew, the astronauts on board can still steer the capsule. They can override it and take manual control if they need to manually steer the capsule down. They might come in they're probably not as precise as the computer, but I mean, there have been cases where astronauts flew the shuttle back down through re-entry manually just to see if it would work. They did that in 1982. They took the space shuttle and the guy was flying it like you'd fly it in Kerbal. Frickin' flew the thing right down and landed on the runway. Really cool. Great mission. Can you discuss it sometime? I just did, Astro, and I'm not willing to go into any more detail. I know, Aqualex. Yeah, I got you, man. I know. Now that SpaceX is more than capable, where's that greenhouse on Mars? It was the whole reason why SpaceX started.
Discovery, go at throttle up.
Starship. If I was going to manufacture a Dragon, I'd want a joystick. Laser ring drivers are typically self-contained for ion use on aircraft, but I suspect they have something more precise for spaceflight. Yeah, Warped, I don't know exactly what they're using. It's some kind of inertial measuring system, dude. It could be accelerometers, it could be an IMU, it could be gyros, it could be whatever. Sorry, I meant more in-depth. What did you just say? I'm confused. Can you discuss it sometime? No. And I said no. I don't really want to go more in-depth than that because you don't talk about guidance systems, dude. And then you replied, sorry, I meant more in-depth. Am I having a stronk? Called the Bonjuliz. What degree do you need to become an astronaut? Andrew, astronauts come from all walks of life, but most of them are degrees you need to work hard for in school. Some astronauts are doctors. Other ones are mechanical engineers. Some are test pilots from the military. Some of them are civilian scientists. You basically get a STEM degree, a science, technology, engineering, or math degree, and put your foot to the floor and go hard. Because some of these astronauts, man, some of their resumes make you feel pretty damn stupid. Oil rig driller. Yeah. It's probably the tech from a missile. That's right, Lord. Yep. Yeah, an Air Force test pilot. But see, that's the thing. Test pilots aren't just like Jeb Kerman and just, all right, send it, let's go. You know, like, test pilots aren't like that. Test pilots are half nerd, half jock. Yeah, it's very strange. It's a very strange phenomenon. If you see somebody that's jacked like a football player, and then they're like, yes, the thermal conductiveness through a plastic nonlinear density at random velocities and angles can be summed up by this formula here. Yeah, like yeah, test pilots have to be super smart, man. I wonder how stressful it was on Apollo 13. Andrew, I've talked to guys that flew on that mission. I've talked to Fred Hayes before. He said, "Man, don't panic. Fix the problem. Panic later when you get home." True story. The original machine had a base plate of prefamulated amulite, surmounted by a malleable logarithmic casing in such a way that the two spurving bearings were in direct align with the panometric fan. Did you see the remastered Saturn V launch that popped up on Reddit today? No, but it's probably reposted from some footage that I've probably seen before, Gladiator. And if it's not, link me up, dude. Get perms from a moderator. What? And what? And what? Huh? Lasering gyros are absurdly precise. Same tech used in LIGO, which can detect changes in length at a fraction of the width of a proton. Yeah, Aqualex, it's probably best we don't discuss that stuff on stream. Yeah, it's probably better if we don't talk about that. Yeah, exactly, Serge. That's right. Test pilots are cool, man. Really cool people. Think of test pilots like a good Formula One driver. A really good Formula One driver can give the engineers engineering feedback and tell them what they need to fix, right? Like an Air Force or a Navy test pilot does that, but with an airplane, which is a little more complicated than a Formula One car. Yeah, Figgity, that's right. All right, guys. Well, hey, I think it's time for some GTA racing. Super Max. Piss drink. I think it's time for some GTA racing. On Saturday nights, guys, I don't play Kerbal. We try not to do any science stuff. We jump in. I play GTA racing on GTA Online with some viewers, and yeah, chill and have a good time. So if you got nothing to do for the rest of the night, sit back, relax. You got plenty of stream left. Hey, HK, what's going on, man? You used to live on that stuff. Piss drink. Super Charles. There you go. Joe, they're so screwed. Ferrari's so screwed. What are they doing? Why would they get rid of Binotto? Why would you do that? What are you doing? I don't know. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed the Crew-5 mission return.